I was never born a leader, but I believe it's been a gift that God has instilled in me. This road has not been easy. If I was not a believer and a strong faith individual, I would have crumbled.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Salem Speakers Podcast. This is the show where we connect you with speakers who are making a real impact in the world. Today, I'm honored to be joined by a woman who has built her life around serving others and empowering them to find their own voice. My guest is Musudeen Harrell, a compassionate nurse with nearly 3 decades of experience and a successful entrepreneur for over 21 years, and also an inspiring Maxwell Leadership-certified speaker. She is the founder of multiple compassionate care organizations, including My Blessed Homes and Courageous Home Care, that serve those who often go unheard in our healthcare system. Through her platform, Inspiring Words, Musudeen helps caregivers, leaders, and professionals transform their compassion into confident action. Musudeen, thank you so much for being here today.
Yes, thank you for having me, Kris. I appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am. Musudeen, your story is very inspiring. You've balanced this kind of incredible healthcare career, both as a nurse and as a successful entrepreneur. How have your 28 years on the front lines of nursing helped your approach to business and leadership?
Tell you honest truth, when I started nursing, it was out of passion. I saw my mother, she was a CNA, and I didn't know the difference between a CNA and a nurse. I just saw that she was so compassionate about what she did, and I wanted to be just like her. So when I did go to nursing school, I was self-driven because I wanted to do what my mother did, and I wanted to have the credentials behind it when I did find out what she was versus what I wanted to be to move further in my education. After I finished school, I did work in the hospital for a while. I never thought in a million years I would be an entrepreneur. Never thought. It was not a passion, it wasn't a dream. It was more of a mission. God really placed on my heart to start an in-home care agency. This was 22 years ago. And before I even knew anything about in-home care agency, I just knew people were leaving the hospital and going to the nursing home. And I knew there had to be something in between where they can go home and get some extra help and possibly stay in their homes. So without even doing a lot of research, I just knew I needed to do something as such. At that time, I had younger children also. So I had to navigate having younger children and working and at the same time trying to start a business. And I did, out of passion, I started the in-home care agency. And then I invited one of my co-workers at that time. She became my friend. We became partners. We didn't know anything about business, but we knew we loved to take care of people because we are nurses and we take care of people. And so that's how the journey started, out of the vision. And then since then, I just saw bigger visions. I saw there are more people that need the help, but then there was a tier to the level of care. So because we had in-home care, and we saw there's another need. We had an individual. She was a cancer patient. She had no family, and she needed 24-hour care. But the state will only pay for a certain amount of hours, so you cannot get 24-hour care under state-funded monies. So we thought we needed something that we call our home. We call it mini homes. Out of nowhere, we started a mini home, but unfortunately, she was really sick. She couldn't even enter our mini home. She had to go to a nursing home and shortly died. So that's how we started the residential care arena of the entrepreneurship. Knew nothing about that, just went in on faith, purchased a building, and started up. So every single journey has a story how we started entrepreneurship without even knowing we were serving a major purpose, and so that's what has driven me to all of the pieces of being an entrepreneur and, going strong at it.
Yeah, that's amazing. The passion just kind of drives the action, and then you kind of figure things out as things unfold. Um, I also
Yes.
noticed a
Yeah.
central theme in your work is being an advocate for individuals who often go unheard. Where does that passion
Yes.
come from, and why is it so important for leaders and caregivers to learn how to speak up for others?
When we are nurses, we are taught to follow doctor's orders. So when I was in the hospital, my voice wasn't being heard. When I got onto doing my own entrepreneur, and especially in the home health arena. And so I'm going to tell you the difference between home health and home care. So one is skilled, which is home health, and you are pretty much alone. You have to make decisions and then consult the doctor, especially when there's something that needs to be done right away. So we had so much autonomy in terms of doing and then notifying the doctor, this is what we did. Do you have any other suggestions? So that kind of started my empowerment then. But what really went strong, even though I was an advocate during those times, my mother in 2022 became ill and she had dementia. But before her dementia, she had diabetes and hypertension. My mother's blood pressure was 230 over 130s. But my mother had no symptoms of having the high blood pressure that comes along with dangerous high blood pressure. And at that time, she was on 6 blood pressure medications and nothing was working. I started advocating hard because my mom was taking care of herself at that time until my brother and I stepped in and we saw that she needs more help. The doctor told us, your mother's too complicated. There's no way we can take all these medications, restart back up and see what really works for her. So that's where the push started. Then shortly, she ended up with kidney disease. Because of her kidney disease, she ended up on dialysis. This was all in 2022. But she had already hypertension and diabetes prior to that. So that was the complications that led to her kidney failing. She was on dialysis with dementia, and the dialysis will make her brain shift. The fluid will shift every time she'll go because she's on the machine and it'll go so fast because of her dementia, it accelerated dementia. So she would come home combative. She would curse at my brother. She would spit out her food, just not her normal.
Mm-hmm.
So that really was what took a toll on me trying to push more harder. Even though you're in the healthcare arena, usually the physicians do not want to listen to the nurses because I believe they think they know more. There's a lot of physicians that don't, but there are some physicians that do listen to the nurses. So I did approach her dialysis doctor, her kidney doctor, and I wanted to ask more questions. My mom, by the way, was 79 years old at that time. And I asked more questions. Is there any way we can start a lesser treatment? Because this treatment was not working. They had decreased her dialysis to 2 days a week and decreased the time to 2 hours. So versus 3 days a week and 3 hours, we're now at 2 days a week and 2 hours, and it wasn't making a difference. And my mom would pull at the tubes, fight the nurses. It was just a disaster. But the doctor told me at that time, your mom cannot get on a lesser treatment. And if you want, you can take your mother home and be her doctor. Because I asked for simple treatments such as peritoneal dialysis, which she can be in her home. She can get dialyzed by my brother, which is not so strong on her body and her mental status, but we had pushback. So the whole entire time from 2022 to 2023, we were battling, the healthcare system, just trying to get the right treatment for her. Unfortunately, my mom gave up. Dialysis wasn't working, and she passed away in 2023. So that's been really a bigger push, even though I was advocating for individuals such as mental disabilities, which I work with individuals as such, and we have to talk to the doctors in order for them to get the right treatment. And there are some doctors, they sometimes do not want to go with the nurse's suggestion, even though the nurse have been working with the individual and know what this individual's characteristics, behaviors, and all of that. They choose not to listen. Sometimes your voice can be firm and also loud at the same time for you to get your point across, unfortunately. So yes, that's where advocacy all stemmed from.
So now you're a certified Maxwell leadership speaker. Many people know the name John C. Maxwell. How do you incorporate his proven leadership methods into your own unique message of compassionate leadership?
So I've developed the title nursepreneur because I am a nurse at heart, love the profession, but I'm also an advocate and an entrepreneur. So when I joined John C. Maxwell last year in March, I never knew in a million years I would be joining the team. I went in for one day for a day to lead, and then I end up joining the team. I have loved being on the team because the values of giving value to others, and that's where my passion is. I love to give leaders values. I even took my leaders with me to Florida for the John C. Maxwell conference, the one-day conference. And I just felt like they gleaned a lot of information from just being there and just being with people in the room, and people are excited and they want to advance their lives, and it was such an amazing thing. And then I said, well, I guess I'm going to try to do public speaking. I never in a million years thought I would be a public speaker, and I've worked at it. I'm trying to work more and more with it and try to advance that part of my life now, and also the nursing piece, and tell people how leadership looks like. Because again, everyone will call themselves a leader. I was never born a leader, but I believe it's been a gift that God has instilled in me, where I'm now able to empower other people. I tell people I'm their cheerleader. Whatever's happening, even though it looks bad, I'll say, you can do this, and I'm always excited to give more and more to people, even people that don't think they can do anything. And I have a story behind this. One of my leaders now that works in the organization, she's very quiet, and she'll say, I'm shy. But I've seen this young lady just advance just from the time that she's been around me, and I'll push and cheer you on at the same time. And so it was amazing that just recently, as a matter of fact, 2 weeks ago, we went on a walk. And we did a walk, and I said, you know what? You can do the same thing every single week. It was a group walk, but it was only once a month for women. Nice walk. But then I told her, I said, I think you can do this, on a higher scale, and you can do this every week. And this was just 3 weeks ago. And you will not believe. She said, you think I can? I said, yes, you can. She went home. She designed a flyer. She sent it right away to me, like within the hour. It was just amazing. I said, great job. You did a wonderful job. She posted it out on TikTok, and I posted it out on Facebook. And her first walk was 2 weeks ago. And so she had 20 individuals come out, but people are just reaching out to her on TikTok. And I was not available the day that we launched it. Unfortunately, I double booked myself. I didn't know I did. And I said to her, I'm so sorry I booked you for this trip, for this event. But guess what? You will do amazing all by yourself. And she said, you think I can? I said, yes. You just need to talk to people, encourage them, and they're going to be fine. And when she got through, she said the women were so excited. They were so happy that she formulated this group. And she said, I was almost in tears. I said, you did it. And so last weekend, Saturday, was our second time doing it. It was amazing. I was able to join her then, but it's just the transformation that I see in people's lives that I'm excited, because even if she's not with my organization, she's going to be a better person leaving me.
Yeah, that's an awesome story. You've founded several organizations like My Blessed Homes and Courageous Home Care. What was the mission behind creating these companies and businesses, and what gap did you see in the community that you wanted to fill?
So the original one, which is the Blessed Homes, that was a nonprofit. That's the one we formulated when we saw the client that we had for in-home care. She had cancer stage 4, and she ended up passing away in the nursing home. So that's when the drive started, and said, we really need to form a mini home. Did not know the regulations, didn't even know what to do. Start looking for a loan to purchase a building. And we purchased a building, to house the individuals. It's an 11-bed facility. And so it was nonprofit, ran by a board. But of course, we were foot on the ground, had to do all the leg work, the nursing piece, and all of that. So that's what actually drove that next step to doing the residential care facility. And then ever since then, that's when the adult day program started through Courageous, because we saw, okay, there's another need, that individuals need somewhere where their families can drop them off during the day while they're at work. And that's how Adult Day program started with Courageous Home Care. Alongside that, Courageous Home Care also have ISLs, which is individual service living for people with mental disabilities, DD, developmental disabilities. So those individuals get housed 24 hours a day with staff coming in to care for them. I tell people when I describe it, it's like they are your big kids. So these are your big kids. You need to do everything with your big kids, which is make sure they eat, make sure they shower, make sure you take them to the doctor, dental, all of that. Take them out to the community, activities. And so that's how I describe the ISL. So every single piece of whatever I've done, it's like a story behind everything. And the first in-home care I started with my business partner, I ended up leaving that organization due to differences, and I started Courageous Home Care. So Courageous Home Care has started a year before I even had a client. And there's a story behind that. How it started with Courageous is because I was stepping back out on faith. I had been with my business partner for 17 years, and now I have to start all over. Of course, it's a little scary, because now you have no clients, you have no workers. So when I started, I was on the treadmill trying to come up with a name, and the Holy Spirit says, Courageous. I said, oh, that's the name. So that's how Courageous Home Care came about. And then the Lion of Judah, and that's how the lion came about. So this was all on a treadmill walk. Then I started it, nothing happened. There's another story behind that. I end up having a conversation with the Lord. This was May 15th, 2019. I talked to the Lord. I said, Lord, what are we doing with Courageous Home Care? Just like that. And that afternoon, there was a lady that called out of nowhere. And she said, I'm with another agency, and we are looking for a provider to take over 60 clients. And I said, are you kidding me? She said, no. Wow. And I said, well, what about the workers? She said, the workers come along. I said, wow. Okay, I will meet you. And that was on a Wednesday. And I had this conversation Wednesday morning with the Lord, that same Wednesday. Wow. And so Thursday, I was supposed to meet with the team and her team. And I went and I fasted. And so I went in with confidence because she was interviewing other agencies. I think I was the second person or third, she said, that I came in to talk to her. And she was only the manager, by the way. The owner wasn't even there. So I interviewed with them. They said, well, what will be your strategy? I said, well, this is what we're going to do. I didn't even have an office, by the way. I said, well, we're going to move everybody strategically. You need to call the state or have them call the state, get everybody switched over to Courageous Home Care. Bring the workers in. We're going to orientate them. We have a 2-day orientation. They were closing that agency down that following Monday. So mind you, this is Thursday. So we had 3 days to turn everything around and get people orientated back to work without anxiety. So because I gave them peace, I said, this is what we're going to do. Step 1, get the people moved. Step 2, have the employees come for orientation. Day 1, day 2, Friday, Saturday, Monday, back to work. And it went so smooth. I didn't have an office, so I had to borrow my friend's office. And we had orientation there. And that's how that all went down.
Wow. It seemed like everything just kind of unfolded, like you said, stepping into faith. Yes. And then the doors kind of opened and yes. You never know how it's going to happen, but leaning on faith and stepping in faith, the doors open up when they're right and when they're ready. When you speak to a wide range of audiences, from, let's say, caregivers to community leaders and different professionals, what is the one thing, the kind of universal takeaway that you want every individual to leave with after hearing you speak?
I drive perseverance a lot because this road has not been easy. I've had multiple challenges, dealing with state entities. If anybody that deals with state, there's a lot of red tape. And I've had adversities. I've had to fight through it. If I was not a believer and a strong faith individual, I would have crumbled. No lie. But perseverance is one. And it's not about you're just going to do it one and done. This is lifetime. And anybody that puts their mind to doing something and you really want to do it, you have to commit 100%. It's not 50% or 70% or 80%. It's 100%, no matter what it looks like. It can be crumbling and you still have to be the face of the organization. even during the hard times, and it's crumbling, and you have to be the cheerleader, say everything's going to be okay, just waiting to see, and so I've been there. Even my recent season, I'm in a season right now, and I've had to encourage a lot of people, and I said it's going to be okay, we're going to get through this hump, right? I don't know when. My new saying is I don't know, and I've not. When I was growing up, they said don't say I don't know, but now I have the I don't know a lot in my mouth.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so but perseverance is one, and resilience, you got to persevere through it. Grit your teeth to keep praying. I have a saying, I say I pray and pluck, I pluck and pray and pluck, and just keep going. And so that's really what I have done in these 23, this is the 23rd year now of just entrepreneurs.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so finally, let's say for all the event planners and different leaders watching this podcast and listening right now who have teams that might be feeling, burnt out or unheard, what makes your message the right one to re-energize a team and give them a renewed sense of purpose in their work?
I think one thing, you need to go to the why. I always visit the mission and the vision. And if the leaders are upholding that mission and then teach it to their individuals, and it's not a one and done. I used to do monthly meetings, and we will rehearse that. Why are we doing this? What's our why? Because there are times I had to ask myself, why am I doing this? Why am I dealing with the state as hard as I'm dealing with them? Why didn't I just quit? So there's always a why. If you know your why behind anything, that's what's going to drive you. And the leaders have to be on one accord. If they're not on one accord, it's going to fall apart. So from the top to the bottom, that's where it needs to start.
Awesome. Musudeen, thank you so much for this inspiring conversation. I think your message of leading with both courage and compassion is definitely needed right now in the world we live in.
Mm-hmm.
And for everyone listening, if you want to bring Musudeen in to inspire your team to find their voice and lead with purpose, you can find out more about her on our website and her speaker page at salemspeakers.com. We'll have that link below there in the show notes. So thanks so much to Musudeen for spending time with us. And thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Salem Speakers Podcast. All right, we'll see you next time. Goodbye.